instead of always looking at the goalposts that you might never reach, you need to look back as a team and look at yourself, look at wins that you're having, and it keeps you motivated to keep executing and pushing. So it's just focus on the wins and not always the goals that are always in front of you.
Welcome to the Team Amplifier Podcast. I'm your host, Byron Summerdahl. Here you'll be inspired by industry leaders who build flourishing tech teams. Stay tuned and prepare to be amplified.
3, 2, 1.
Well, hey, everybody. Today we're talking with Charles Zivko, one of my new favorite people. And we're talking about giving our teams clear priorities. And so we're going to talk about that here in just a few minutes. But before that, I want to introduce you to our guest. Charles is a 25-year veteran in tech leadership, 3 times technical co-founder with 1 successful exit. That's always nice. And currently a fractional CTO with aspirations to become your next DJ. So I haven't looked up DJs in my area. I may have to call you up and like bring you in the next time I need a DJ. But Charles, how about you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you're going on and maybe like explain the DJ
for sure.
thing.
So background on myself, I started as an engineer in the late 90s. So I've been doing this for a while. I've worked in video games, insurance, music. That's where some of the DJ comes in. I've always loved music my whole life. And a lot of financial services also. In 2016, I co-founded a financial service company. It's myself, and it got acquired by a larger company, and I became CTO there. And so grew the company from 2 people all the way up to 75, and I was leading technology and product. And what I'm doing recently is fractional CTO work, is helping businesses and companies who could, given my experience, help them execute strategy, leadership, execution. And a lot of it ties back to what we're talking about today is prioritization. So often I come in and help teams that might be struggling or build teams from the ground up. And often what is a core problem of the struggles might be a great team, but miscommunication, prioritization is always a problem, even at the best companies even.
Nice try at a segue, Charles, but we still have to talk about that embarrassing moment that I told you about before that you had to come up with that confession time. So nice try at skirting confession time. Okay, before we jump into that though, what is a book that you've been reading lately so I can fill up my library of the next book to read? What's a book you've been reading lately that has
so for me, it's The Gap in the Gain by Dan Sullivan. So one thing as a fractional CTO, I'm going into an area I haven't done before. So finding clients, doing initial calls and kind of growing that section. And I've always been ambitious, but if you're ambitious, you have goals, you can get a little focused on the goals and you always have a hard time reaching them because you always push them out. So, and this is true for oneself and for teams, you have to look back and look at what you've done in the past 3 months, year, and the gains. That keeps you focused and motivated, and you will be extremely surprised on how far you have moved. So instead of always looking at the goalposts that you might never reach, you need to look back as a team and look at yourself, look at wins that you're having, and it keeps you motivated to keep executing and pushing. So it's just focus on the wins and not always where you're never going to, always the goals that are always in front of you.
Yeah. I mean, when we make a goal that's so far off, we're going to spend a lot of time thrashing in the gap, which I'm guessing that's where the title comes from. I mean, there is a gap, and we live in that gap, and that's where we need to be finding our inspiration and encouragement to keep on moving. Can't wait. I like Dan Sullivan a lot. He's good writer, and he's made some really good stuff. So I'm looking forward to that book. So okay, now, Charles, it's time. So step into my confession booth. What's an embarrassing mistake that you've made as a tech leader with 25 years plus of tech leadership experience? Surely there is at least one thing.
And it's doing exactly what I tell my teams not to do and doing the wrong thing and breaking stuff. So I very much believe in not chaos. I'm a order person and keeping production up and running and very well, in a great state all the time. But especially more recently, I was in a role where I was not hands-on writing code and pushing things out, but I knew what was going on. I could go in and fix things. And if I did see a breaking exception or, something happening, going in, thinking I'm doing the quick fix, but I'm not the experienced person doing it every day and pushing it without getting my senior engineers to sign off, like our process said, to do it, and making things worse. I made the mistake, and I use it as a learning experiment for the team too, saying, hey guys, I made the mistake. Do not do that again. This is why we have processes to not break things.
And I'm guessing you were a fractional CTO.
This is when I was actually the CTO of my previous company.
CTO.
As a fractional CTO, I made the mistakes, a lot of the mistakes, and don't ever try to, apply the correct ones as a fractional CTO.
Well, what I'm thinking is that, okay, first of all, it was your company. You're one of the founders, or you're one of the owners. And also you're kind of the top dog. You're the CTO. And the part of your process, you said, that was for the senior developers to sign off on it, which I'm trying to think of, like, would the team have stopped you, the CTO? Would the team have stopped you? Would they have had permission? I've had the same issue before, like where I'll do something stupid and it's because I'm rusty, or because I forgot, or I didn't know the process, or maybe I just thought, hey, I'm Byron, so therefore I'm going to just go and do this. And the team, I've had to really work on them. The team might not have just automatically come out and tried to question me because of my position, or because of my experience, or whatever. And maybe they think, oh, well, Byron should know what he's doing, or Byron's the owner, so he's going to have to deal with the mess anyway. But that's for me an embarrassing part, is when I make a mistake and I don't give enough permission to my team to call me out, which they need, and everybody needs that. Have you been able to get to that point with any of your teams where they're willing to call you out on things?
I've always set up the teams, and we go through prioritization and the vision to empower them, and also to self-correct if minor things go wrong. So they would have definitely pointed out the mistake that I had made, but I rushed it through and didn't give them the chance to look at the pull request and say, this isn't going to work because we implemented something else that you're not aware of, type of thing. And they would have definitely stopped it, right? I was trying to be doing like, let me do this quick favor because I know what I'm doing, type of thing, and skirted around the correct processes we had. But I think the point you bring up is, yes, if you're going to have successful teams and move quickly and make things better, you need to have your team to raise their hand. Because if your team's frightened of you or scared to point out when you're wrong, you're going to fail. You're going to fall on your face. It's not a good place to be, because everybody makes mistakes, regardless of how much experience you have, regardless how long you've been doing it or what you know. You need feedback from everybody.
I totally agree. All right, great points. And I heard in what you were saying earlier, another attempt at a little segue, and actually now is the time. So we're going to segue into the topic. What we're actually talking about today is giving people clear priorities. And that's a way to help them to flourish as human beings and team members. So, Charles, give us the lowdown. What do we mean by giving them clear priorities?
As a leader, which I've been doing in focusing on as a fractional CTO and as CTO of my previous company, is giving an extremely clear vision to the team of what the goals are, and then giving them autonomy and building a great team so they can execute and hit those. So the vision and the clarity is extremely important, and how we get to that win. So often, regardless of what size company it is, there's always competing priorities, especially with different departments. Different people think what's more important, what's less important. So if everybody has their own priorities and everyone's, thinking they're doing the right thing and moving things forward, at the end of the day, you get to the end of the quarter and you're like, well, why didn't the biggest and most important things get done? Is because every individual team, every different department thinks they're working on the top priority, but then you get to the end of the quarter and nothing gets completed. Everything gets halfway done. And it just leads to quarter upon quarter, and you start slowing down, even though everyone's working harder and harder. So giving those clear priorities and making sure it's cross-cutting across departments, all the way from the top, from the bottom up, everybody's super clear, and then letting everyone go and execute on those is a cornerstone of winning on a lot of these. And I've seen very, very talented teams who don't have clear priorities struggle with this a lot.
I think that like especially in an agile and iterative, like true agile project where there's not necessarily a fixed budget, or maybe there is a fixed budget, but there's not a fixed scope. And so you're kind of iterating up to a certain point. Potentially the client or the product owner could look at what you've done and they can say, okay, that's enough. That's enough for us to stop. And I'm going to go over here and sell this and make more money or something like that to fund the rest of the project. But as an agile project, that is totally possible. And I haven't seen it actually happen because it takes a really mature product team and a product owner to be able to do that. But if that's what they want to do, then you have to have clear and disciplined attention to priorities, because if not, you'll end up building a lopsided project or the wrong features and not get the highest value, highest importance features out the door first, giving the client that ability to say, okay, let's stop and think about how we're going to iterate forward. So I like this on so many different levels. The benefits for the business, of course, are clear. Like you've got benefits to the bottom line. You've got benefits to support an agile process. You've got benefits to the client. They're going to get the best stuff first and the best attention. And you're going to end up with parts of the project that actually get finished. But that's all nice. This podcast is really, all that stuff is great. And I can geek out on all that stuff. Really what this podcast is about is human flourishing. How can we as tech leaders use this method or this way of thinking to promote human flourishing in our teams? So what is giving them clear priorities have to do with human flourishing?
The motivation and pride and ownership that a team gets from winning and hitting the success metrics that everyone agrees upon.
Yeah.
Because I've been in situations where every single quarter you're missing the goals. Nothing ever gets completely done. One team thinks it's success and done, but the CEO doesn't consider that done because the success metrics were not clear, which is sometimes a problem. And then it's like the team worked really hard to put everything into it. And then they show the rest of the company and they're like, the company's like, what is this? This is not what we wanted. And it's just deflating. It's just like, why am I doing this? Why am I working so hard? No one's appreciating it. You get in that loop. So having the clear wins that are clear across everybody and the team obtaining those and getting those is critical to keeping the momentum and not hitting burnout. Because I'm usually building teams that want to stick together and go for the long run and not just grinding people through. It's not my process of building. It's not chaos. So it's like, you need those wins. You need to have those metrics because it just makes your day-to-day great. It makes your personal life better. It makes everything better that you're feeling, having those feelings. And then the team starts overachieving and growing more. And they're like, we can do this. Let's go and be more, ambitious with what we're going after.
One of my favorite things about being a software developer, and I still get to develop things every now and then, but one of my favorite things is to build something and then put it in front of somebody and then watch them use it. Sometimes I'll even add little logs here and there. Not that I need the logs. They're not really useful for debugging or something like that, but it just kind of gives me that dopamine boost of like, hey, somebody's using that thing that I just made. Makes me feel good. And I've always loved that about software development. And the opposite can be true too. It can be really discouraging when you spent time building something, you put some thought and craft into this thing, and it just never gets used. And I think that's kind of what you're saying, but that slight aspect of seeing people use something is awesome. But if you're not working on high priority, high value features and things, you're going to spend a lot of time on things that maybe nobody's ever going to touch because it's just not the most important thing. Maybe it's never actually destined to be developed. But if I develop it anyway, because maybe I decided the priorities or because I wasn't clear, then I might be building something that's just going to be on
If you're
the shelf.
constantly doing proof of concepts and nothing ever gets shipped, it starts draining on you. I was just talking to another, someone I collaborate with, and he's building some proof of concept AI related things for companies, which is there's a lot of proof of concept AI things that will never see the light of day right now. But he's just finally found the client. He's like, I'm finally building something that's actually going to ship because he's just been in this grind of like helping companies do proof of concepts that never go anywhere. And he's just like, I just want to build something. I just want to get it out there. And I totally understand that. Like getting users, like you were saying, to use your product, there's nothing that gives you more pride. Like, I mean, one of my biggest things I have pride in is having an app in the App Store with 1 million downloads and a 4.8 rating, right? People used it. They actually liked it, right? Like there's no better feeling seeing people use what you're creating and actually enjoy it.
Yeah, and good for your friend for landing that gig, because now he's going to be able to wake up in the morning and love life and be excited about going to work and working on that code. So I know the feeling, and I'm happy for him. So if this is so good, John, I know it is. If this is so good, why don't more leaders put effort into giving their teams clear priorities?
I think most of them think they're doing it. Like it's not clear to them that it's not happening. I was working, with a client a few months ago, and they were missing their product delivery feature set by up to 12 months, like drastic delayments on what they needed. And it was critical features for the company. And the team was working extremely hard. They were getting burnt out because they were working, but nothing was getting past the, shipping spot. And one key thing is the CEO was, not even, some CEOs can be very type A, very, very strict. He was very easygoing, but he's still the CEO. He heard something and it's like, team, we need to do AI, right? And it wasn't on the priority list of the quarter at all. The team dropped everything. They started working on a proof of concept that was no clarity on how it should work. They spent a month working on something that's never going to ship. That was a proof of concept. And they basically stopped working on the other feature that was supposed to be built that quarter. I went back to the CEO and told him, like, this is what happened. He's just like, well, I didn't think they're going to stop working on the other one. I thought they could have done both. And I was like, no, actually, it's impossible that they can't do both. Here's why. And he understood. So having clear leadership, who sometimes you have engineering and product teams that they don't have the skills to push back against maybe a CEO, right? Type of thing, or they don't know how to, or they don't know the business strategy, right? They're not in those things. So the CEO is like, hey, let's do this, team. And they jump on it right away. So the CEO, in his mind, he's like, I'm super clear with everybody of what we're supposed to do, but the team is doing something else. So having that bridge from someone who can understand the business side to the technical side, leaders making sure the team are focused is the critical thing. And getting everyone to agree on the success metrics and what's expected, and not deviating from those unless they all agree, right? Because getting agreement across different functions is critical, because otherwise something will pop up and then you'll get distracted and go down 10 different roads. And then the thing that was supposed to get done this quarter doesn't get done, and the other thing doesn't get done. So again, I always practice extreme flexibility. But working at startups, we can shift on a dime, but if we're doing it, it needs to be agreement on the things. So that's just a critical thing, is just like having the right structure to not stop the thing we're supposed to be working on just because someone, even if the CEO had an idea and thinks we should explore something.
So we're saying that one reason why tech leaders don't necessarily give clear priorities is not necessarily because of the effort. Like, it's not that they're not trying. And I agree with you. I think that most tech leaders would say that, yeah, I do put effort into giving clear priorities. Maybe there are a few that just haven't really thought about it and just kind of throw things around. And I can almost guarantee that they will grow out of that. But the idea that I need to give clear priorities to my team is I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, because I know that there are really intelligent people out there that are just not doing it yet. But it becomes a no-brainer eventually. Like, you grow out of that kind of thing. But I know plenty of tech leaders, and I've been there. I've done the same thing. Who really, like you say, they believe that they're giving clear priorities. They're not really. And so I'm wondering what kind of advice we can give to those out there that might not really be sure. Maybe I don't give clear priorities to my teams. What's like maybe a litmus test or a way to find out whether or not what I'm doing is really clear?
So usually, again, I've been participating in quarterly planning and roadmaps and all those things for many years, and like it's difficult even with the most well-intentioned group. It's hard to always agree. So setting up, basically creating your projects and really clear results for each project, and just writing, it doesn't have to be super time consuming, just writing them down and everyone agreeing, because usually write down your thoughts, it might change your mind or will add clarity. So a clear purpose for the project, the importance of it, the ideal outcome of this. If this succeeds, what's going to happen? What's the worst case result if we don't do this? So these are things that can help the team all agree. Again, leaders might need to do this, but you need to get bottom up involvement also, because if it's just top down, the team isn't involved, right? Maybe you have some strategic top level business and revenue goals, but like, how do we get there? Involve the team on those, because they're going to be critical for the success. And what I think for each project is defining the metrics for success, for a win. So we all say, if this happens, this project is a win, because sometimes the project, part of the company thinks, or part of the team thinks, well, we accomplished it. The other part is like, nope, it's not done yet, type of thing. So just defining what done looks like and what a success is often the missing part of it too. But those critical points seem super simple, but they help align everybody across everything. And you get agreements on things, and people get clarity on what's important. And if new projects come in, you can do the same thing and easily stack rank them. And it gets you out of the sense of, I've been in so many meetings where, well, I feel this is important. Well, I feel this is important, right? Everybody has their feelings. Great. Write down a quick list of why you do that. Some people do it and then they get stuck and they can't say why it's important. Guess what? It's probably not important then, right? Type of thing. And the ones that you can clearly list down of why it's important and what impact it's going to have, the worst case, if we don't do it, well, clearly we should all do this. It just gives clarity to the team and the decision-making that can get stuck sometimes where people feel we should do this or that type of thing.
I've seen actually a really good effect for tech leaders themselves with what you just said too, because when you get consensus and you let the team, even including the stakeholders, make the decision on the priorities, then no one gets the blame when we find out that our hypothesis wasn't true. Like when you develop the feature and you find out later on that nobody actually wanted it, you see the heat maps, nobody's touching that link, and nobody gets the blame because everybody pitched in and collaborated on the decision. So there's a nice little like side effect to that. It helps us as tech leaders flourish as well. But so as tech leaders begin down this road, maybe they have the light bulb moment. They realize that, okay, I'm not giving clear enough priorities to my teams. So they want to start going down that road. They want to really polish off that part, or polish up that part of their leadership skills. As they start down that road, what are some pitfalls or some problems that they might find as they're getting started that we can warn them about?
I would say the biggest thing is, especially when you're building teams and getting them to the place where they're, empowered to execute, because I'm always in positions where I do not want to micromanage teams. It's a waste. You're not finding the right people, and it's a waste of everyone's time, and they don't have the ownership. So where the pitfalls is making sure that team who's owning that outcome and building the certain feature or product. Some of the places I've seen success or the pitfalls is, again, the CEO coming to that team, because I've always wanted to have companies that are fairly, like, the CEO should be able to talk to anybody in the company, right? Especially if we're not talking huge, 10,000 plus companies, right? I've always worked in medium-sized ones. It's just like the flourishing of ideas. You never want to stop and block that and say, you can't talk to my team unless you go through your meet. That is not ideal. But getting the teams to be like, oh, the CEO talked to us and had a really good idea, but we're not going to stop working on our priority until it's all agreed upon to switch that. Because I've seen that happen many times where the priorities were super clear. Me and my team, I was clear with my team, they were clear, but someone else came in and totally derailed them, right? And it was something, I'm not checking in on them every 10 minutes, right? And it's like a week later, it's like, hey, I thought, checking in, like, why didn't this get done? Oh, someone came in and changed the priority, and that wasn't the right thing. So always watching that. And when you're working correctly, you'll know it, because the CEO had an idea, came and brainstormed it with someone, and it's not derailing this quarter's things, because it's not important, because everyone is putting that litmus test on what's the importance of it. And we're going to put it on the track for next quarter or coming soon, basically. So that's what I've noticed. Like, oh, the process is working, right? I don't have to get involved in like try to reorganize things. Everyone's clear of where we're going and self-correcting themselves and making sure it's being executed correctly.
It's so true. There's something that I learned about, I don't know, about 8 years ago. So you've heard of definition of done. You mentioned that just a minute ago. You may have also heard of definition of ready. And this is something I learned from a friend, Tommy Norman, years ago. And there's this, it's kind of the same concept as definition of done, where you've got this list of almost like a checklist of things that you check off that the team agrees this is how we know that the feature is done. And as Tommy Norman would say, it's done, donely done. And the same like effect can be given to a definition of ready. Because if you have it as a team, if you've got this agreed upon checklist of here are the things we expect to be a part of this Asana card or of this Jira issue or whatever, these are the characteristics that this feature must have before anybody develops. And as long as that's a shared, like a social contract inside of your team, and it includes certain things that would be required that wouldn't normally happen if somebody just walks into somebody's office and says, hey, can you sneak this in? Then as long as the team agrees on that, and you even get the CEO to agree on that too, then I've seen, at least in my own teams, that was power at helping to protect the priorities. Now I can't say that it never allows new things in, because in Agile, of course, you need the flexibility to be able to put things in, but only if it has been agreed upon by everybody that this is now the highest, the market just said this is the newest, most important thing. And so then we can let it in. But only if it is.
I like that a lot, because I've been picking on CEOs here, but I do this myself with teams, because I see things and I'm like, oh, I understand the engineering stuff. And like, I go to my team, I'm like, hey, can't we just do this real quick? It should be no problem. Let's do this and like that. And then if you're structuring your teams and empowering them correctly, you'll be like, sure, we can do that. But then guess what? You want to deprioritize this? Something's not going to get done. You literally have everything planned out to execute on what the goals are. And I'm like, it gets me to think, I'm like, that's a good point. How important is this? It's not that important, or it is important, right? But then something else isn't going to get done. And then being agile, we can change course, but all the things can't get done all the time, right? Just making people understand that. And like, if we do this, it's more important than this. Do we agree? Just that. Great. This one's not getting done. We're doing this. And then we get to the end of the quarter and no surprises, right? Because like, that's usually what happens is like,
exactly,
you plan, everybody goes off and does their thing in different, different departments in different areas. And you come back at the quarter and review, and, people are upset certain things didn't get done. So that is the process to help alleviate that and making sure expectations are met for across the board.
So Charles, how about you share a time when giving your team clear priorities led to some unexpected results?
Yeah, I would guess I would have to come back and say, my example again is seeing the right thing being done, right? Basically, I could say unexpected as a negative side effect too, but maybe it's not the best way to phrase it either. But I'm going to go with it though, because I guess the unexpected is like seeing it where prioritization breaks down so many times, right? And in my, knowing there's a better way to structure it and put it together to execute it, and trying to get the team there and everything on board. But then finally, maybe it's falling short here or falling short there, But I guess the pride, basically when seeing the process hold up and priorities not breaking down and the right ones getting done at the end of the quarter that we're expected to get done.
So let's leave our audience today with something just like drop dead easy and practical that they can take away and potentially like put into practice right now while they're watching. As long as they're not driving their car, they should be able to implement this today. So what is one thing that tech leaders should do like right now to start building more flourishing into their teams?
One simple thing is the biggest one I usually see getting missed is just defining success metrics. So everyone's on the same page so they know what a win looks like, so they can be all focused on that. Setting the projects, the purpose of them, the importance, also very important, but the success criteria helps everyone focus. Just doing simple things like that gets everybody on the same vision and the same path to winning together.
Man, that's awesome. And I think it's so practical and so simple. There have been actually a lot of things in this discussion so far that are practical that people could put into action right away. But this is the kind of thing that can really make a big impact on your team. I think, like we were saying before earlier, we talked about all the benefits to the organization, the leadership, the project, the client, the product owner, the product itself. It's a very beneficial thing for all of those things. It's also such a huge benefit for our teams. And so, folks, if you want a surefire way to help build teams that flourish and really get all the goodness of priorities, start giving people clear priorities. Charles, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Tell us how.
Thanks. I appreciate it. This was super fun. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Charles Zivko, Zivko, and also my website where I'm starting on the early stages to publish some thoughts and processes on things at samo.ventures. That's samo.ventures.
Awesome. We'll put the links to those in the show notes so that everybody can check you out. And man, I can't wait till the next time we get to have a discussion.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
This has been another episode of the Team Amplifier podcast. Thanks for joining us. Now, get out there and be a team amplifier.